Okay, so once you've completed at this point all of your renderings or all of your technical drawings in the 3D model, if you've chosen to tackle that 3D model in SketchUp, it's time to create the presentation board. Now the presentation board can be found at a link through this document that I sent you, which is the overview of the assignment. If you come down to presentation board creation, now keep in mind when you open this thing up, it has to be completely opened. If you have a kind of a black background on this and a semi-transparent black background, and it gives you the option to open, you need to select open. But once you're here, you just click on the InDesign template link, download the file. Make sure that you're in Indesign CS6 before opening this now. Let me demonstrate that. I'm in CS6 now, and I'm just going to go open. And I'm going to navigate to my downloads in this instance. Site furnishing board, done it once before. It'll pop open. Now the images that I have, because you've downloaded it, will not be linked. Meaning if you print them off, they won't. They'll print off pixelated. But that doesn't matter anyway because you're going to put your own images in. But just for your information, that's how links work. I will also post a couple of videos or links to videos to other InDesign tutorials, kind of the basics of InDesign. It's a relatively easy program to use, and it's super powerful for layout, not only for boards, but also if you're creating a portfolio potentially or a project overview book. So I hit W, and you should see my keys being expressed on the screen as well for this capture. And when you go into when you tap W just by itself, it toggles in and out of the edit mode, so you can see your borders and your text box frames, and if you want to pull ruler guides down, excuse me, you'll also see them. All right, so you do not need to change the biomimetics kind of description. You can play with these colors if you'd like, and I'm simply just double clicking in this text box, and I have a gradient here, but you can select any color that you want or explore using gradients yourself. You'll put your name in and the date. Don't forget to do that. And this is where you're doing your images. Now this is a group, and I know that because I have this dashed line around all these objects. If I double click, it'll allow me to manipulate each object within the group. If I just want to break that group up, I'll click on it and then Control-Shift-G to ungroup these items. To link an image, these are image frames. You would just go to the links window dialog box and find the relink option, in which case you can find any image that you want. Say it's Canyon, and the image would pop in. Now if you want to rescale some of these things, if they're you don't have to use this specific layout. And please feel free to modify the board if you like. That's completely up to you. I'll leave that at your own discretion. You can drop image frames in. Let me just demonstrate that. You can drop, delete this box just by using this dialog box here, and you'll see that you can select also between the rectangular frame, the ellipse, and the polygon frame tool. So let's just do one in the ellipse. I'm going to hold shift to maintain constraints and make sure that it's proportionate, and I'm going to Control D. Let me just use this hand abrasion thing I'm using for another design. Drops in. It's pretty gross, but expresses the point. And you can move these images around with your white selection arrow, and I believe that's the direct selection tool A. If you want to move the whole image, the whole frame around, you use the black arrow. Click on the side, and you can move the whole piece around. Okay, really easy. I'm just snapping to these constraints, these guidelines that I've pulled down. And you can drop images in this way. If you want to add a stroke to it, you have this dialog box here, this window, and you can add stroke colors to it. And this represents the exterior portion, and this would represent an interior fill. And some of those basic tutorials will help you with that, but you really don't need to tackle that. But you can change the size of these if you'd like, the stroke of these boxes if you'd like. So that's how you would drop these new image frames in. So let me Control Z and go back. Control Z, Control Z. Let's go all the way back. What is important though that you have the same elements. You need to create a description of what is whatever element you selected. If it's a range wrap, if it's a banana peel, whatever it is, kind of give a description of it, a brief description. These are your images. Now, what I did, I actually sketched over top of my images and inferred shapes or forms. Now, I realize some of you are just looking at images and inferring things from that without drawing over top of your imagery. That's fine. If you want to go through the extra steps in Photoshop, and my people in 370 are probably a lot more comfortable with doing this, you can scan your image and bring it into Photoshop and overlay it, but I'm not requiring that for this exercise. You can simply just import or relink these images to the image or images, I'm not sure how many you're using, that you use for your inspiration or your sketch pieces. So if you have so you do want to use your clear shot images here, but the sketches, the abstractions that you've made before you jumped into trying to draw your multi-view, I should see here. Something that that is telling you or showing the person, the viewer that's looking at this board, how you came up with this shape from your inspirational piece. And then what you want to do is, once you have that and those sketches put into here, just by relinking again, remember, click on here and just relinking these images, or putting in your own custom text or image frame. You want to summarize the idea. What is it exactly that you're doing? And this should be pretty self-explanatory. When you come into here, then I have these set as text or image frames, and you want to just scan all this stuff should have been scanned ahead of time, but you want to scan your trace that you drew these multi-view sketches in, the rough sketch, and kind of bring them in into this. Now I scanned one piece of paper, or did I for this one? I didn't. I did these individually. But you can use one large sheet of paper and then simply just move it around to get this piece in the image frame. And maybe I did that here. Yeah, so when I got to my multi-view detail drawing, I did all of these in AutoCAD, and you should see that video. If I move these things around, you'll see that all of them are on the same sheet. So that's a way of doing it. You just scan it and you just simply shift it around to get it into position. There you go. Okay, and remember, it's really important to relink these, especially when you have one embedded, because it maintains the scale. If you just drop a new image frame in, the image will come in at a different size potentially, and you need to rescale it. If you do find yourself in that predicament, you scale just by finding that image. I'm using my direct selection, my white arrow, and it's the same thing. It's very common in most these applications. You grab a corner, hold shift, and you can then change the size of the document within the frame. Wrong one. And then I'll just move this around just to show you what I'm talking about. There you go. So it's really easy to scale these things as well. Again, if I realize that a lot of people are using pretty complicated geometries, very curvilinear geometries, that is pretty difficult to model within SketchUp. Now, there is a tutorial video expressing how I did this, but I know that people have much more complex models than what I've created. If you'd like to tackle that, that would be great. I'm not requiring it for this assignment, but definitely get through the multi-view detail drawings and put together this board. Now, once you have this board completed, your image is put in, your colors selected if you'd like to change them. You probably should. And also come up with a quote. That's I almost neglected to mention this. This is something, well, I guess you don't necessarily have to. This is Janine Benuez. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but she is a big kind of ambassador, excuse me, of the biomimicry movement. This is a quote that I found from her. So it is appropriate for everybody's design, but if you'd like to pick something else that means something more to you, you certainly can. And again, if you want to redesign the whole board, that's your prerogative as well. Just make sure that the width is 17 inches so we can print 2 at a time. So when you're done with this, I want you to file. I have an Adobe preset export, so high quality print, and save it, and then it'll save it as a PDF. Let's just do that so I can show you. So I'll save. All ranges optimized, it's fine. Export. And it'll export to your desktop, and then that's what we'll end up printing. So then you'll just email that to me at ncat and landark, and let me just, there we are. and that's the piece. So this is what you should be producing. If any questions, just find me or Cameron, and we should be able to help you.